Okay, so I'll be speaking about the retinal sequelae of COVID-19 infection, what has been our practical experience in our hospital in the last 1 year. So this is a case series treated at Apollo Health City and can be classified broadly as infections secondary to immunosuppression from the COVID or its treatment. And this included one patient with endogenous endophthalmitis, one of candida retinitis, one of choroidal abscess, which was tubercular, and several cases of mucormycosis, some of which had central retinal artery occlusion with vision loss. Then we had treatment-related adverse effects, central serous retinopathy likely from steroid use in 2 patients, and voriconazole-associated visual effects in 2 patients. We had post-viral sequelae in the form of AMN and PAM in 1 patient, bilateral prefoveal hemorrhages in 1, post-fever retinitis in 1, and several patients with neuroophthalmic manifestations, which included bilateral optic neuritis in 2 cases, idiopathic intracranial hypertension with severe papilledema in 2, and several patients with cranial nerve paresis. Now, why does COVID-19 get associated with secondary infections? This is because the coronavirus itself is known to cause immunosuppression through cytokine overexpression, impaired cell-mediated immunity, which is seen as decreased CD4 plus and CD8 plus counts. Also, coronavirus causes insulin resistance and de novo diabetes, which causes immunosuppression. Use of systemic steroids and other immunosuppressives during the corona infection, prophylactic broad-spectrum antibiotics, and invasive procedures in severe cases. All these factors favor fungal infections more than bacterial infections. An interesting point that has emerged is that COVID-19 itself causes de novo diabetes. It triggers insulin resistance. In addition, the use of steroids for the management of COVID-19 complications contributes to the de novo diabetes. Now, coming to our retinal patients, there was one patient, a 46-year-old male, who presented with the typical symptoms of endophthalmitis, which started 4 weeks back during his COVID infection. He also developed diabetes de novo during his COVID infection. So he was taken up for vitrectomy on the same day, and we saw multiple dry ball-like exudates suggesting fungal endophthalmitis. So he was treated with intravitreal voriconazole, amphotericin B, and 2 antimicrobials, antibiotics. Microbiology tests were negative, and he was placed on oral voriconazole for 6 weeks and oral ciproflox for 2 weeks, with complete resolution of the infection in 6 weeks. You can see a lot of exudates at 6 o'clock position. Then we had an immunocompetent 59-year-old lady complaining of vision drop for 4 weeks, which started during her COVID infection. During this infection, she had been on steroids for 4 weeks and had also developed de novo diabetes. She also had multiple spleen abscesses on PET scan. And she was investigated for this large choroidal abscess, which we saw, along with multiple satellite lesions. We investigated her for tuberculosis, syphilis, toxoplasma, rickettsia, and Lyme. Everything was negative. So based on the clinical picture, we started her on anti-tubercular therapy. And at 6 weeks, the choroidal abscess had significantly resolved, as also the satellite lesions. So TB and COVID-19. Systemic TB has been reported along with COVID-19, but not ocular TB. And a mouse model has demonstrated that the coronavirus can reactivate dormant TB. And there are other studies that show that the diagnosis of COVID-19 precedes the diagnosis of TB in a large percentage of cases, raising the suspicion that the coronavirus might boost the development of active TB. However, the impact of the coronavirus on the clinical course of TB is only modest and does not make it adverse, as we also saw in our patient who resolved rapidly on ATT. Another important feature of our case was the yellow satellite lesions around the main choroidal abscess, which has been reported as characteristic of ocular syphilis. 3 cases reported by the LV Prasad Eye Institute group earlier. They were all TPHA positive. However, the relevant investigations were negative for syphilis in our case, and the patient responded to ATT, suggesting that these kind of satellite lesions can be seen with tubercular choroiditis also. We had a 57-year-old male who was referred for routine fundus screening because he had been diagnosed with candidemia, and he was on intravenous fluconazole at this time. When we saw him, the right eye had 3 patches of retinitis, one of which was involving the macular center with vision as poor as 2/60. And he was not aware of this because he was too sick. We shifted him from fluconazole to systemic voriconazole because of the superior ocular bioavailability of voriconazole. He was too sick for vitreous interventions. After 2 weeks of systemic voriconazole, the retinitis lesions were resolving. But at 6 weeks, we saw new vitreous exudates. So at this time, we took him up for intravitreal injection of voriconazole and amphotericin B. Oral voriconazole was continued. 10 days later, however, the vitreous inflammation appeared to have increased. There was more vitreous haze. However, the original retinitis lesions were resolving. So we decided to continue with the oral voriconazole. And you can see that at 3 months, all the vitreous exudates and the retinal lesions had resolved. And he was asked to continue oral voriconazole for his systemic candida infections. So COVID-19 with invasive candidiasis has been described, and most patients have been found to be serious COVID infection admitted to ICU with central venous catheter and receiving broad spectrum antibiotics. However, retinitis has not been reported. The other fungal infection that we have seen commonly in COVID-19 patients is mucormycosis. Almost 50 cases from our ENT department. They present at 2 weeks to 4 weeks after detection of COVID infection. The important thing is that all have been diabetic, whether that was a pre-existing diabetic or de novo diabetes during the COVID infection, and all had received steroids for their COVID infection. Most cases were unilateral, but bilateral were also seen. All of them present with orbital signs, but some of them have vision loss, and the cause for this could be central retinal artery occlusion or simply orbital compartment syndrome, which means the optic nerve gets compressed in the orbit. Those with CRAO do not recover vision, but those with optic nerve compression can recover vision after treatment for their mucormycosis. Exenteration may be required in up to 20% of these patients. Management of mucormycosis is required urgently and is 3-pronged, which includes control of blood sugar, stopping steroids, and then the medical and surgical management of mucormycosis, which includes liposomal amphotericin B and oral posaconazole, as well as sinus surgery for debulking the fungus. There is some suggestion that prophylactic posaconazole may be given in severely predisposed patients to prevent mucormycosis. Then we had a young lady complaining of sudden vision loss in both eyes, admitted in the ICU for Pseudomonas sepsis following her COVID infection. At this time, she had thrombocytopenia, and when we could take her images, this was the picture: bilateral prefoveal hemorrhages, which over the next 4 weeks resolved completely with good visual recovery. So sepsis occurs in 2 to 5% of the patients of COVID-19. And thrombocytopenia is a known complication of sepsis, which can cause these kind of pre-retinal hemorrhages. Then we had a 32-year-old young, otherwise healthy male patient complaining of sudden onset of a triangular negative scotoma inferotemporal to the center of his visual field. History was significant for recovery from COVID infection 4 months prior to presentation, and otherwise he was quite normal. What we could see is a triangular deep retinal whitish lesion in his fundus corresponding to outer layers disruption on OCT. And we also saw some superficial hyperreflective lesions in the OCT with underlying shadowing. Similar picture in the left eye with multiple yellowish white fundus lesions and a single hyperreflective lesion on OCT with underlying shadowing. So this looked like right symptomatic AMN and bilateral asymptomatic PAM. These are rare conditions with the sudden onset of paracentral scotomas that may persist for several months or may resolve slowly. The cause is not clear and could be a microvascular abnormality or altered coagulation status. 50% of these patients follow viral illness, and in association with COVID-19, there are 2 reports of AMN and PAM. Then we had a 40-year-old male in the ICU complaining of multiple visual symptoms that had an onset 3 weeks back. History was significant for systemic aspergillosis, for which he was on intravenous voriconazole 300 mg BD for the last 4 weeks. His other medications were not contributory to the complaints of visual symptoms. On examination, his visual acuity, color vision, intraocular pressure were normal. Pupils were brisk, fundus was normal. Perimetry was normal, ruling out any visual pathways lesion. So we reached a diagnosis of voriconazole-induced visual disturbance. His voriconazole dose was reduced with improvement in symptoms within a week. However, the dose had to be stepped up subsequently, and that led to recurrence of his visual symptoms. Even at that time, when we saw him again, his ocular evaluation and perimetry were normal, though he was very symptomatic. So with regard to voriconazole-induced visual disturbances, these are completely reversible and are reported in up to 30% of the patients on voriconazole. These are associated with reversible decrease in ERG amplitude. It seems voriconazole affects the bipolar cells. This is not reported with other azoles such as fluconazole and itraconazole. So if the patient can be shifted to other medication, that should be done. It is, however, a diagnosis of exclusion and should remain as one of the possible causes of visual symptoms with normal ocular examination in a COVID-19 patient. We had 2 patients with central serous chorioretinopathy, most likely because they were on steroids for their COVID infection. Both of these were young ladies and resolved when the steroids were discontinued. Then we had an elderly gentleman who had no other systemic disease, but had blurring of vision for 20 days, had recovered from COVID-19 3 months prior. Following COVID-19, he had another fever, which could not be diagnosed specifically. He had been investigated for his retinal problem, and all the investigations had returned negative. He had been on oral doxycycline for his retinitis for a week without any benefit. So when we saw him, his vision was 6/18. There was vitreous haze and cells, and there was multifocal choroiditis with some macular edema. We made a diagnosis of post-fever retinitis and placed him on oral steroids and topical steroids. And you can see significant improvement in vision, vitreous haze, as well as retinitis after a week. And after 3 weeks, the retinitis had almost completely resolved with complete visual recovery on steroids alone. So post-fever retinitis can happen following any infection, and it's believed to be an immune-mediated pathophysiology. Treatment includes observation or steroids, systemic and topical. When it follows a bacterial infection, antibiotics could be added to the steroids. In our case, doxycycline had already been given, so we added only steroids. We have seen several patients with neuroophthalmic sequelae of COVID-19. 2 patients with idiopathic intracranial hypertension causing severe papilledema. One was a 24-year-old lady whose symptoms started during the COVID infection itself. She is improving on Diamox and steroids. And another was a 47-year-old male whose papilledema was so severe that he also developed serous detachments of the macula. Then we had 2 patients with bilateral optic neuritis, again, which started during their COVID infection. And this was a 56-year-old gentleman who had cecocentral scotomas. Vision was 6/36. Following treatment for the optic neuritis with IV and oral steroids, there was subjective improvement in the visual acuity. This was a young lady who developed bilateral optic neuritis. And we had some patients with cranial nerve palsies. This was a lady with third nerve palsy. On an MRI, she had an infarct in the midbrain, which explained this palsy. And these patients were managed by our neuro-ophthalmologist, Dr. Rachna Kumar. Thank you for your attention.